at an auction, I bought as little as about a 4-inch smoker, which I don't use. In fact, I don't use a smoker. But anyhow, I still have that as kind of a, just one of those things you have to have. So.
Ed?
What was the question?
The question is, what made you take up beekeeping and become a bee person?
What made me become a beekeeper? My wife wouldn't let me raise tropical fish. I used to raise tropical fish commercially, and
Oh, you're serious?
she decided that we needed to go south in the winter, and you cannot do that with tropical fish because they have to be kept. With bees, you can put them in the back burner for a couple of months.
Okay.
Well, I inherited it. That's all I'm going to say.
When I was either 10 or 11, I really don't remember which it was, we had a neighbor about a fourth of a mile away that I would mow his lawn, and one day when I was mowing, a swarm came out and I watched him catch the swarm. And then I would go down and watch the bees going in and out of the hive and just kind of wonder what was going on. And one day his wife called and said there was a swarm and she couldn't get it herself. Would I come down and help? So I did go down and help her. He wasn't there. And that really fascinated me. And so now I saw the inside of a hive and what it looked like. And there was a fellow in town that he had some hives for sale. So my dad and I went over there and I bought a single-story hive for $5. I picked the one that, he had quite a few there, I picked the one that had the most bees going in and out of it because I didn't know what else to base which one I should take on. So, and then we had another neighbor that he had about a dozen hives, and he said I could put my hive in with his hive if I'd keep all the weeds down around the hives. So that's what I did. About a month later, the bee inspector came, and they burned my hive. It was a full American fall brood. And so the bee inspector went with me to where I bought bee from and got my $5 back. The problem was this fellow where I had the bees, he was a doctor and he figured that all of his equipment was contaminated. So my dad, I wasn't there, my dad went up and talked to him, come back and he said, well, you're $300 in debt, but you own the hives. And that was right about the time that they started using sulfa for control of the American fall brood. It didn't work very good, and it wasn't good to use because it didn't break down in a liquid like terramycin does. And so, but that year, none of the rest of them came down on fall brood. I did go around with the bee inspector to look at other hives. I found out what fall brood was and exactly what it looked like, especially in the beginning stages. And I got enough honey from those hives to pay for them that same year.
I don't remember what sparked my interest. When I saw that question, I racked my brain and I thought, well, maybe back in the 70s there, I was a college student protesting the Vietnam War, and perhaps some of the recreational drugs were fairly common and had something to do with why I can't remember how I got into well, I figure if the former president, half the Supreme Court, and 2/3 of the Congress can admit to having smoked marijuana, I can as well. And I'll bet you there's at least one of you that might have taken at some point in the past, but you probably didn't inhale either. But like Jim said, once I read an article or was exposed to it, I read all winter. I read everything I could get my hands on, and I'm sure someone here can refresh my memory, but I went to Bethel College in St. Paul, and so I was fairly close to the U of M ag campus there, and the head of the entomology department back then, Dr. Frigala, thank you. But I started going to some of his lectures and classes, and Of course, there was no internet, so you couldn't just dial up a video to see how to install a hive or something. But I went there on a Saturday morning, my bees came, and the newbies went, and we watched Dr. Fergala install a package, and I went home and installed mine, and been at it ever since.
Basically, I think it was independence, but it was also the fact that I was raised on a dairy farm. And I knew before I was 10 years old that I was not going to be a dairy farmer.
Took you till you were 10?
Well, I didn't move on to the farm until I was 9. But it hit me very strongly that I did not have to be there every morning and every night and all the day way in between. I could get my work done, and I didn't care when I did it, night or day. And believe me, if you're a migratory beekeeper, you will do it night and day.
Kind of related to that question then too is, where did you learn the art and science of beekeeping? Did you learn from somebody, or if so, who? You know, we heard that from Jack, right? But Gene, if you can get us started with that question, please.
Okay, I got started a little bit by the seat of my pants until I met Denny Lind. And he was really my mentor until he finally said, you know, you ought to take the short course at the university. Because I was bugging him quite a bit with questions. So I took the short course, and it kind of pointed me in a straighter line towards learning beekeeping.
I also started off by the seat of my pants, but the short course was really nice. And by the way, the University of Minnesota also has a queen rearing course, and if you haven't taken either one of those courses, they're very, very nice and very, very worthwhile going to. They have fantastic classes up there. Oh, and you have to register early because they sell out.
Actually, I learned a lot from Denny, but we went to all of the meetings like this meeting and learned from other beekeepers. We were involved with Dr. Fergala and learned a lot from him. I took the short course, Danny and I took that together, and we took the queen rearing course. So I guess from a multitude of places that I learned, but I sure listened a lot and learned quite a bit about it.
I got most of my early information from Dr. Hadak, who was at the University of Minnesota. They had a spring class there. It was mostly commercial beekeepers, but he kind of took me under his wing, and he got me a couple of books that really explained the biology of the bee, which he told me was, if you don't understand that, you'll never really be a good beekeeper. And he was right. And that really got me going in the right direction. I also went around with the bee inspector every summer for at least 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And I learned a lot from that too, because I saw what other beekeepers were doing. And there were some real experiences doing that.
So yeah, like I said, Dr. Fergala, and I think I was lucky because I didn't have a mentor like one of these guys to learn a bunch of bad habits from.
I've got a lot of friends that took me under their wing. I did have some help from one of the guys even on this stage. I bought my first extractor from him. It was Denny. I met Dale Wolf up at Baldwin, Wisconsin, because I lived at Hager City at that time in Wisconsin, which is, if you don't know where it is, it's right across the river from Red Wing. And I volunteered to help him extract honey if he would extract mine. And of course, the prices was free for both of us. So he thought that was a good deal. So I learned a little bit along that line. And then I started with the first bees actually in 1978. Oh, excuse me. I started commercial beekeeping in 1988 and I bought a bunch of packages to go with the 100 hives I already have. And that was the best year I've ever had in my life, and that kind of gets you caught if you get a honey crop of 180 pounds, and that's the average per hive, which I did in 1988. But then in 1988 winter, 90% of them passed away from trachea mite. So now I had a little money to go and buy some more, and I went back in. And then I met a commercial beekeeper who has now passed away, Paul Peterson. And Paul got me started going to California. And he passed me on to Joe Tweedy, and Joe Tweedy was written up in National Geographic. And for years and years, I stayed on that operation out there in California. So I've had a lot of good mentors, and a lot of them taught me the right way.
You know, I have to mention, some of you probably know Leo Kiefer, I knew Leo Kiefer, and from St. Charles. And I had a similar experience helping him extract honey, and he'd extract mine. And he was just a no-nonsense guy, and he did teach me a lot in the early 80s. And it's fun to hear from a guy like that. Just no nonsense, no technical stuff, just down-to-earth, practical beekeeping. And I think I've kind of got that in my DNA, not to try to get fancy and big explanations, but just the basics, the bee biology and just the basics of beekeeping. I don't think I know a lot more now than I did when I started. After the first year, of course, you learn a lot in your first 12 months of beekeeping. 200,000 stings will do that to you. But Leo taught me that just stick to the basics.
I think
There's two other people I really should mention. They're both deceased, but Charlie Hoffman helped me a lot. He was he made his living on about 700 colonies of bees. And then there was Leroy Borland, who helped me when I became a commercial beekeeper. That he helped me a lot also. That'd be Leroy Senior, not Junior.
Thank you all. I think what's really key message that I heard from this too is just mentors, right? You know, everybody learns from, joining, helping, just doing, and the mentorship is really the best way of doing that. We have a strong mentorship program with SEMBA, so if you're looking to really learn, really to grow as fast as you can, find a mentor at SEMBA or any one of our Graybees.
Let me just add one little bit of interesting information. When we went to the beekeepers' meetings, like this one, the Southeastern Minnesota meetings, they were always a dinner meeting on a Saturday afternoon. When we went, it was all commercial beekeepers at that time. There may have been one or two hobbyists, but basically it was all commercial beekeepers, and so you really got in on a lot of that kind of information. But we always dressed. The guys wore suits, and the women wore dresses and heels, and it was a very fancy-dancy meeting.
Airplanes used to be like that too, right?
Yeah, so we'll have a dress code for the next meeting, for the end of the meeting and all that. So it's men in tuxes, women in black dresses, so nothing short of that.
Okay, there was something else too, besides other mentors, besides Denny, okay, and Tom Bramble, okay, and Gene, okay, they all helped. But there was the other thing, is when we started, in 2004 or something like that, we were having meetings out in the
facilities room.
the maintenance shed, right?
Yeah, where the big smoke.
And there were 6 of us, and that was a good turnout. Okay, it wasn't always the same 6. Sometimes we got up to 9. Okay, and that was in what, 2003, 2004, something around in there. Okay, so things have grown. People have become more aware. Things are a lot better. Well, there's more people involved, let's put it that way now, which also helps significantly. Get a mentor.
Yep.
That's the main.
Very good. So most people do not react well, to the sight of a swarm of bees. So Were you afraid of bees when you started, and how did you overcome this fear if you were? So if you weren't afraid of them,